Now, Boris Johnson has admitted that he moved far too fast on net zero during his time as Prime Minister, saying that he got carried away with the idea that renewable energy could fully replace fossil fuels. While the former Prime Minister remains a supporter of green policies, Johnson warned against scrapping net zero entirely, but argued that Labour's 2050 targets for reaching carbon neutrality should now be pushed back. Let's now speak with the campaign director at Net Zero Watch, Maurice Cousins. Maurice, always a pleasure to have your show. Boris Johnson was one of the biggest choir leaders for net zero, and suddenly, pardon the pun, he seems to have had a bit of a light bulb moment. Why the sudden change of mind?
Well, I think it's always good to sort of see politicians rejoining reality. But I think it's very important here to sort of actually, as you sort of pointed out earlier, to sort of say what he's actually sort of said here. He has said that he's made this out to be about one of scale and speed, whereas actually what we need to remember is that it was the direction of travel that was always wrong. And in answer to your question as to why he's rejoining the reality camp, I would sort of say it's perhaps because he's trying to make himself relevant again to the right, potentially hoping that he can make some sort of a comeback. And you can see where the direction of travel is going amongst conservative and conservative voters and those who are likely to vote reform. And so he's orienting towards that new centre of gravity.
So you think that this mea culpa on net zero actually is part of a strategy to, if you like, rinse his karma of some wrongdoings of yesteryear to fuel a political comeback?
Listen, I think it's good that we're having people that are confronting reality. But what I would say is, knowing people like Boris, there does appear to be a bit of a cynical game being played here. It's a way to appeal to people who he might want to rely on for support in the future.
A lot of people, Maurice Cousins, perhaps cynically, I don't know, think perhaps it wasn't Boris Johnson forcing this all along. It might have been Carrie, his missus.
I couldn't comment on that. I mean, I do know Carrie a bit, and that yes, I know she's very passionate about the environment, but I wouldn't like to comment on that.
The whole point about this, though, Maurice, is that we seem to have a lot of realisations from the Conservatives at the moment. The immigration is too high, taxes were too high, perhaps COVID lockdowns weren't the best idea either, and we should leave the ECHR. And by the way, we got net zero wrong as well while we're at it, for good measure. Will people buy this, do you think? Will the electorate buy it? Or should we just like say, look, do you know what? As you said, it's good to see you've come to the common sense party late rather than never.
I think people should actually start to see this as a way of our politics healing itself. The system's actually working, and in part because of the way that we've now had people like Nigel Farage come into Parliament, and that has shaken the system up. But we should welcome when politicians start to accept when things have gone wrong, and they want to correct the course. That is how our system is supposed to function. So yes, it's frustrating that it feels like we wasted 14 years. We didn't do anything around ECHR and HR and the Human Rights Act. We left the Climate Change Act on the statute book as well from 2008. There are all sorts of other realities that we're confronting, and we're realizing now that there are these big structural reasons as to why our politics and society just feels broken. So we should embrace that. It's frustrating, but it's a good thing.
And it's also worth pointing out, of course, Maurice, that the United Kingdom has perhaps done more than any other industrialised nation on earth to cut our carbon emissions. We've put in a shift.
We have done, and some people might say that as a success story. I look at that slightly differently. Just to be absolutely clear, climate change is real, it is serious, and we need to do something about it. But we are only responsible for 1% of global emissions. Whatever our response to that should be is proportionate. That is what someone like Margaret Thatcher said. She was the first world leader to recognise global warming as a phenomenon at the UN in the late 1980s. She remained committed to wanting to do something about climate change, but she was very clear that whatever our response should be to it, it needs to be both practical, it needs to be proportionate, and it needs to be prudent. And nothing that we have done since 2008 has met any of those three tests. And instead of which, we've put global interests ahead of the national interests, and we thought that we can defy the laws of physics when it comes to building a new energy system to meet our national needs.
Yeah, as you say, though, at least there is an awakening, or should it be an awokening? Thank you very much for joining us on the show. Always a pleasure. The campaign director, Net Zero Watch, Maurice Cousins. Thanks for your time. Absolutely.